globe. Open up your earlobe, your third eye, and then decipher the code. Through knowledge, understanding, then bring love into the concept instead of bling bling. Truth instead of bias, educational methods. Twisting, contorting God's message of love for every human being. Listen, motherfucker, don't you hear the screams? It's time to do much more than talk, debate, and spread hate. We need to think and at the same time investigate. Understand what our actions may create. Before continuing the cycle, we procreate. We can clone humans, but at the same time, we can't feed humans. The future of man is actually looming. It's really depressing, it's true. And yes, you know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. Though you know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
Yes. What's up, folks? Back at you again. Just wanted to hop in and check out some of the news as of late. You know, this post-election news, it's very interesting, you know, how it's been unfolding because, you know, every day there's new details coming out. And it just adds more depth to what's going on, right? More understanding to what is going on overall. But, you know, when I look at this, you know, I see a lot of this as being like some sort of backlash overall to like these social justice movements like Black Lives Matter, of course, obviously, you know, which has been politicized to a large degree, right? i.e., this kind of backlash, Maga, which is like, you know, I mean, they decided to play with fascist agenda, right? And, you know, it's been really interesting. But one aspect that is really staring out that is just as big as fascism or even just as big as whatever MAGA people want to say about the left, right? Was just as big and standing out and just glaring is that this is about billionaires in the USA wanting to dictate to American people and using these kind of tropes, these kind of things like, which are dangerous, of course, and not new. You know, it's not like fascism in the past didn't involve a bunch of corrupt rich people trying to siphon a lot of the money off, you know? I mean, essentially, Hitler needed money too, you see? So, as the story goes, you know, in a lot of places, this is just the same pattern repeating itself. And give also another aspect of it is that, you know, people focus on this in the US often, but there's different versions of this occurring across the world, also in the EU, right? And, you know, it's interesting because it didn't seem to be so verbally heightened in the US, like they're just outright saying fascist things now, you know, but it didn't used to be that way 20 years ago. It was a little more subtle, right? But still there, obvious, but more subtle, a lot more subtle. This is just open, you know, craziness. But in any case, let me pull this up from the Midas Touch Network and check this out.
Out there, Jim Jordan, who covered up sexual abuse at his previous job before being a member of Congress. Here's what he says.
And Congressman Jordan, do you have any sense about what will happen with that House ethics report that was supposed to come out Friday? Remember, Gates had been accused of things and no prosecution had been continued. It had been dropped. But Dick Durbin's trying to get his hands on that report, obviously, to leak it out to hurt President Trump. What is your sense on that?
Well, it's my understanding that is not supposed to go public. So if it's not supposed to under the rules, it shouldn't go public. And what I know about Matt Gaetz is one of the best members we had on our committee. In my time in Congress, which has been a while, I don't know, there are very few people who have the cross-examination skills he does. And I want someone in the Justice Department who's not going to say moms and dads at school board meeting needs to be investigated. I want someone at the Justice Department who's going to say it's wrong for the FBI to do a memorandum and say that pro-life Catholics are extremists. I want someone at the Justice Department who can tell us who planted the pipe bombs on January 6th, who leaked the Dobbs opinion, who put cocaine at the White House instead of all the other stuff they seem to be focused on.
By the way, you notice what Jim Jordan's saying there, but also notice his messaging, right? Saying that the DOJ's going after pro-life Catholics and calling them extremists. It never happened. Okay, people who threatened to blow up schools with bombs got investigated. But notice how they message. Notice how Fox messaged as well. Dick Durbin, a Democrat, wants to hurt Donald Trump. No, we just don't want a freaking pedo to be the attorney general. And by the way, Maga Mike Johnson, here's what he had to say. Let's play it.
Now, this is a low in U.S. Politics. You know, the point where they're appointing or trying to appoint, you know, persons that are suspected of that behavior, you know, and then you would expect people to want to know more, right? But instead, they're like, no, we don't want to know. We don't want to read the report. Check this.
Just don't want a freaking pedo to be the attorney general. And by the way, Maga Mike Johnson, here's what he had to say. Let's play it.
I'm going to strongly request the Ethics Committee not to issue a report because that is not the way to do things in the House.
He's going to strongly suggest that the Ethics Committee not review the report. Is that what he just said?
Maga Mike Johnson, here's what he had to say. Let's play it.
I'm going to strongly request the Ethics Committee not to issue a report because that is
not issue the report, strongly request that they not issue the report. I mean, you know, okay, that's interesting. Why is that?
not the way we do things in the House, and I think that would be a terrible precedent.
For those listening on audio, Maga Mike Johnson said, I am going to strongly request, as opposed to what, weakly request? I'm going to, or mediocrely request? I'm going to strongly request that the Ethics Committee not release the report. So, Popok, let me throw it to you, because also, in addition to these very serious allegations, Matt Gaetz was never really even a practicing lawyer. I think the one case that he took, he sued an elderly woman in a debt collection.
You know, their breakdown on the Midas touch of these two cats is going to be in depth right now.
Election case because she couldn't pay a home care firm that his dad happened to own. Like, that was like one of the two cases. He's never stepped foot in a trial. He's never, zero qualifications for the job of attorney general. But also, I mean, look, we collectively should not be okay with having a pedo as the attorney general. The report should come. Why is this even a controversial thing?
And there's also a cover-up within the cover-up. It is obvious to me, based on the timing, that the House Ethics Committee that had worked 2 years on the investigation of Matt Gaetz, that elected to go forward with it even after the Biden Department of Justice had dropped the criminal investigation, presumably or purportedly because they got there's some issues with the victim, but the victim, who was underage, hence the pedo girl, when she was allegedly raped in a drug-fueled party. These are the allegations. By the way, they've not just been they're not just in the ethics investigation or the Department of Justice. You and I reported on a federal filing in a case down in Florida involving Joel Greenberg, who is the Matt Gaetz wingman, who they went away outside the country and brought these girls with them, who's serving 9 years in prison for these very same allegations, who's been Greenberg, who is in Florida involving Joel Greenberg, who is the Matt Gaetz wingman, who they went away outside the country and brought these girls with them, who's serving 9 years in prison for these very same allegations,
Damn.
who's been ready, willing, and able to testify, and has testified.
And they don't want that report issued
To the House Ethics Committee about it. It showed up in a filing in a lawsuit that was brought related to these matters, in which Matt Gaetz was placed in the filing at a drug-fueled party filled with underage girls for sex. So we were not shocked when the House Ethics Committee, which is one of the only committees in Congress that is actually equally balanced, equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans, although chaired by a Republican. I am almost certain that the Republican chairperson tipped off Matt Gaetz about what was going to be in the report, which was going to be terrible against Matt Gaetz, and told him he should resign as a strategy to avoid its publication. Because 2 days before Matt Gaetz actually resigned from Congress, including the next Congress, he's done. This guy made it public. Chairperson, he said, well, we'll publish it on Friday unless Matt Gaetz has resigned by then. I was like, oh my God. A day later, Matt Gaetz resigned. So I am sure there was a conversation. I'm pretty sure there was a conversation in which it was revealed to Matt Gaetz that he should really get out of Dodge and he should try to resign. This whole Jim Jordan and the Speaker of the House saying, oh, there's no more jurisdiction, it shouldn't be released. And as you said, kind of a line from, although I'm sure it was missed on him, A Few Good Men, I strongly object. Well, as long as you strongly object, then that's different. All of that totally ignores the tradition and precedent of that committee to release reports even if the person has resigned or has no longer been returned to Congress. There's been 2 examples, one in 1987 and one in the 1990s, where they issued the report even though the person wasn't there. And now we have a special case because Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, has decided to nominate the person who is being accused of being a pedophile and a rapist to be the Attorney General of the United States, which now puts the total attention on the Republicans in.
now. Right there, why do you think he could make these kind of nominations? You know, obviously what people are saying publicly, what's going around, on the news, is that people suspect that he's just trying to basically hinder the departments, to shut them down, to make them not function, right? Essentially. And so he wants to put people that are not qualified in these positions, right? And therefore basically weakening the country, making the country's services not function, right? That's what happened. That's what they're discussing. So Donald Trump appoints these people, but yeah. Why do you think it is? Myself, obviously, the obvious thing is that billionaires are getting paid. They're going to get paid. They're getting paid, from Donald Trump. But somehow it seems that they've been pulled into something with these foreign, getting help from foreign governments, which is problematic. Another aspect to it that's very problematic, because you could expect the billionaires to want more money, right? And you could expect that you would need authority to kind of make sure that they function ethically and morally, right? And legally on top of that, right? But Donald Trump wants to hinder those very departments that protect people. So, yeah, it's not looking good at all. What do you think? Do you think people should just go along with this shit? My thoughts are no. I don't think people should go along with this at all. Not at all. And I think it's very troubling. I think it's very, very troubling. Oh, let me connect the chat. Damn. Yeah, I think it's very troubling, actually. I don't think it's normal. Hey, Pumpkin, what's up? Yeah, I don't think it's normal at all, I don't think it's normal at all for this to be going on. And I hope something different happens, to be honest. I hope they intercede somehow What is this person talking about? Gates wasn't indicted. Who said Gates was indicted? But they damn sure have an ethics report where he's accused of, with a witness saying that they've been around young girls. That's in the news. That's everywhere. You saying the news is lying? Yeah. But yeah, in any case, the other big thing is, let's see here, USA, Ukraine, Russia. Now, there's been some international stuff going on here, right? Let me see here. Let's see. Uh, right.
Today, Russia has accused Ukraine of firing US-made long-range missiles into the country for the first time. The Defense Ministry said the missiles hit the Bryansk region this morning, triggering a fire at a military facility. Now, the allegations come just days after the Biden administration is reported to have allowed Ukraine to fire American missiles deep into Russia. And the Russian Foreign Minister today, Sergei Lavrov, described the attack this morning as Western escalation. Well, let's go live then to Kyiv on the programme and speak to Gulliver Cragg. He's our correspondent in the Ukrainian capital. Gulliver, what more do we know about what may have happened today? And specifically, has there been any claim of responsibility from Ukraine?
Well, yes, the Ukrainian military intelligence have confirmed it, or at least an anonymous source or sources in Ukrainian military intelligence who spoke to several Ukrainian foreign media, not to myself personally, but to people that I know personally. They confirmed that it was Bryansk region that was targeted, that it was a military facility, and that it was these ATACMS that were used. They didn't confirm the number or whether any of them were shot down. The Russians are claiming that 5 out of 6 of these missiles were shot down. The Ukrainians have not commented on that. I think we could also note that Bryansk region borders Kursk region, and our understanding is that the Ukrainians see this as part of their campaign in Kursk region, their campaign to hold on to the part of that Russian region that they occupied in August and which the Russians are trying to take back. So in that sense, it comes within the remit of what the Americans said the authorization to use these missiles was for.
And Gulliver, speak to us a bit more widely about what's happening in the war at the moment. We're marking now 1,000 days since the Russian invasion began. And a bit earlier on today, Ukraine approved a new budget for its defense.
So, yeah, the new budget accords more than half of total budget spending to defense. And I think 100% of tax revenue, all of Ukrainians' taxes, will go to the army. That's something that Volodymyr Zelensky wants to be part of a campaign combining publicity and new regulations to try to bring more of the grey economy into the black so that more Ukrainians declare their full income and pay their taxes. That was part of a resilience plan that he announced today in the Ukrainian parliament in a long, more than 1 hour long speech that was also part of marking the 1,000 days. The budget will mean that Ukraine is running a big deficit, but the shortfall of the money that isn't going to be spent on defense is in large part going to be made up by the money that is coming in from Ukraine's foreign partners. Of course, they're expecting some 35 billion euros, I think, for the coming fiscal year. But of course, they will be running a deficit. Let's give you an idea, though, about what Ukraine is able to spend on its defense compared to what the Russians seem to be able to spend at the moment, with their economy having defied predictions and continued to grow. They've still got enough money, the Russians, to be offering payouts of $20,000 to $1,000 one-off payouts for signing the army, huge salaries once you're in the army. Ukrainians, meanwhile, the best paid soldiers in the Ukrainian army are the frontline infantrymen who are taking the most risks to their lives. And what with the fall in the value of the Ukrainian hryvnia, that 120,000 hryvnia per month salary is now only around $3,000. And people who are doing less dangerous roles are being paid less than that. That is one of the reasons why Ukraine has got a huge difficulty with military recruitment recruitment. Mobilization is not working. Today I was at a protest of wives, girlfriends, grandmothers, other relatives of soldiers who've been on the front line. They think for too long and they need to have a respite. They need to come back and have a break, and others need to be sent to replace them. These people were protesting, but not arguing for Ukraine to negotiate for a ceasefire or stop fighting. They were just arguing for Ukraine to put better conditions in place so that people who were going would have better pay and, most importantly, some idea of when their service would end, so that it wouldn't be just a one-way ticket. They want to be allowed to leave the army after 2 or 3 years, something like that. And they say that that would help Ukraine with recruitment. But so far, the government doesn't look like budging on that in any significant way.
Gulliver Cragg for us there live in Kyiv. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Okay, so that was interesting. I didn't expect that actually, but hold on. That was not the one. Here we go. This is the one. Yeah.
Convert your audio and video files into seconds with Turbo.
Tonight, anxious hours after Ukraine fired American-made long-range missiles called ATACMS at a nuclear-armed Russia for the first time, according to 2 US officials. It comes just days after the White House approved their use outside Ukraine's borders. Tonight, President Putin has lowered the bar for Russia's use of nuclear weapons. Under a new nuclear doctrine, Russia could deploy its arsenal if attacked by a non-nuclear country allied with a nuclear state, a message unmistakably directed at Ukraine and the US.
I'm Kelly O'Donnell in Rio de Janeiro at the G20 summit, where a dozen leaders have been gathered, including President Biden and Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who today called the Ukrainian missile attack an escalation. And he talked about Putin making changes to how Russia could use its nuclear arsenal.
We are strongly in favor of doing everything not to allow nuclear war to happen.
As for the ATACMS, Ukraine says they will help resist a Russian offensive supported by North Korean troops just months before President-elect Trump takes office and is expected to demand a deal. Ukraine today marking 1,000 days of war with Russia, with talks on the horizon, but no sign of compromise. President Putin has made many unnerving nuclear threats. Tonight, one European leader calling it rhetoric. Lester?
Okay, Keir, thanks. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking
The rhetoric. Yeah, so what do y'all think about this conflict and with Russia, Ukraine, and yeah, because it seems like the US, like under Donald Trump, will pull out or, you know, play a passive role or a non-helpful role. You know, he will probably go against the EU and other NATO nations, you know, to say the least, you know, in some way, even if it's in a passive way, you know, passive aggression, you know, that's his thing. And but there are reports of the EU, you know, shoring up itself militarily, you know, and they've been doing that over the last maybe like what, 6 years, something like that. And I really think they got some steam on that after Trump's first presidency. They really started investing more money in military overall, if I'm correct. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the exact data. I haven't looked at it in a little bit, but I've looked at it before. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But in any case, I'm going to keep it short today. I hope everybody is doing well. And let me see here. What Pumpkin say? Hold on. Pumpkin shoe. Justice Thomas and Koch Industries. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. No doubt. No doubt. Trump is for Israel. Yeah, Trump is for Israel. They have some, I saw some reports on that also, and some of the statements that Trump has been making about Israel. You know, basically, he's going to give them carte blanche to do whatever they want. That's what people say. And it's like, and guess what? A lot of Muslims in the U.S. said, not Muslims, but I think maybe different, you know, Muslims. Is it Muslims? Or is it? Yeah, I think it is in certain cities, Michigan, maybe I think, in that region, right? They said they went out against Kamala Harris in the election, saying that she was extreme towards Hamas or Palestine, right? And it just so happens that it turns out that Trump could be even worse, a lot more worse. And of course, I think that was foolish for them to say that about Kamala Harris or Biden in general. I don't think that was the wise approach, but you can't force people to do things that you want them to do. They got to come to it in their own time, and hopefully they see that, wait a second, there was definitely a reason to support Kamala Harris and Biden, both administrations, because after all, there's a more extreme American view of that situation too, which is really sad, but it exists. So yeah, but in any case, I'm gonna be out. I hope everybody has a good weekend or a good week, and we catch up soon. I'll be back this weekend. Bless. Peace.
Walking, sometimes I think about, does love still exist? Yeah, I have my doubts. On the street, I check out how brothers be living. Yo, let's just